This is 5 Live Formula One with Jack Nicholls.
It's time for qualifying ahead of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, the second race of the 2023 Formula One World Championship season. Thank you very much for joining us here on the BBC Sport website as we wait to see who will be starting on pole position for the Grand Prix tomorrow. But maybe the question is, who will be starting third for the Grand Prix tomorrow? Because Max Verstappen has looked very, very strong over the season so far and over the free practice sessions that we've had so far this weekend. Alongside me in commentary this weekend, we've got Alice Powell, the runner-up in W Series, and we've got Andrew Benson, the BBC's chief F1 writer as well. And it's tough to look past Max Verstappen coming into this qualifying session, Alice.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it for everyone, but I think Max might be on pole. Yeah, he's just so strong, being really, really strong, especially in FP3. Red Bull seem to really have it under control at the moment. Perez, you know, maybe someone can separate. Alonso potentially could separate the two Red Bulls, possibly. Even Lewis Hamilton, we could chuck him in the mix. The Mercedes are pretty strong in FP3, but as it stands at the moment, it's looking like Max Verstappen.
Alpine have been quick at times. McLaren looked quick in the end of that third practice session as well. Ferrari, we're a little bit uncertain of their pace because they appeared to be, well, they were running with their engine turned down yesterday. It seems as though they were running with their engine turned down again today, but we shall wait and see whether they are able to have a little bit more pace come the qualifying session again. Whether they're going to be competing with the Red Bulls is unlikely, but that fight for third is going to be very, very fascinating indeed. Another driver who's got his work cut out this afternoon is going to be Nick de Vries. He, the AlphaTauri driver, because they had a power unit change this morning, so as a result he missed all of the third practice session. Now, he did do all the running yesterday, and the sun has set in Saudi Arabia. It's just coming up to 8 o'clock local time, and the circuit is under floodlights, and the conditions will be very similar to free practice yesterday, but still a bit tricky for De Vries considering he didn't do FP3. Yeah, and as we mentioned in our coverage of FP3, he is the only rookie essentially that hasn't been round this track. Obviously Hulkenberg raced around there last year. Is he a rookie? I guess not. And then Piastri and Sargent raced in Formula 2, so they've all got experience of this circuit. So it's a bit of a blow for Mr. De Vries, to be honest. It's not an easy circuit to learn. It's very high speed. You know, we've seen some big accidents here in the past, so could potentially take a little bit of pressure off him for this qualifying, seeing that he's a session behind everybody else. But yeah, he'll be looking to try and come out of the box as quickly as possible. I'm sure he sat and scanned through the data and will be ready to go. 17th fastest in free practice 2 yesterday afternoon. Yuki Tsunoda was actually slowest of everyone this morning, but I don't think he did a run on the soft tyre. So it is a few moments until the pit lane goes green the light goes green at the end of the pit lane, and the cars will head out onto the circuit. The bottom 5 in practice earlier on today were Sargent, Magnussen, Bottas and Tsunoda. Those will be the drivers that will be or were at the bottom of free practice 3, so we'll be hoping not to be there at the end of Q1. 16 years ago today, Lewis Hamilton's debut, finishing third in the 2007 Australian Grand Prix. Not really much to say about that, but long time. It was a long time. Yeah. Much experience. It was the first time in, was it 7 years, that he arrives at a race weekend without Angela. Him and Lewis have parted ways for whatever reason, so I'm not sure who's helping him with that at the moment. But I saw an amazing video doing the rounds on social media of Angela carrying one of the dogs down the spiral staircases a few years ago. It was very amusing, and the caption was something like, you know, Angela does all the difficult work or something. Yeah, I mean, anyone that, I'm sure you've spoken to her a few times as well, bubbly, such a lovely person. I'm sure Lewis will miss her, but like I said, we don't actually know the ins and outs, but it's going to be a new start for him this weekend in terms of not having Angela by his side. So cars are queued up actually at the end of the pit lane in order to get as much running as they want in. The Williams are at the front of the queue. Alex Albon ahead of Logan Sargent. Then it's Nick de Vries and Yuki Tsunoda in the two Alpha Tauris. And then I think it was the Haas cars lined up behind them. Yes, it was. Yeah, the Haas cars are lined up in the queue as well, making their way towards the end of the pit lane and out onto the circuit. So they're keen to get some early laps. And I think there's a McLaren in that line as well, because as we said, they looked fairly quick in free practice earlier on, but that was the first time they've looked quick all season, really. So it might not be the case. Yeah, no, well, we've had 20 laps of racing already around this circuit today, Formula 2, so they would have laid down, okay, they use the same manufacturer of tyre, Pirelli, but obviously it's a different compound, so everyone's going to be going out early, apart from Ferrari, who are still sat in their garage, just to see the track conditions. Obviously going to be improving, because you're going to have the F1 rubber that's going to be laid down, as Lance Stroll is sweating already, dabbing his eyes, unless he's upset about something, or happy. It's only 27 degrees. Only. I mean, for some people, that's quite warm. Yeah, it's warm enough for I don't know. Doesn't feel like a particularly hot F1 race. When you go to like Singapore and Miami Miami's a warm one. Did you find that tough? I think Miami was probably tougher than Singapore, just because the sun was just, when you're out in the sun, was so warm, and you're sat in the cars. The junior categories, you sit in the car for a long time, you go to a holding area and wait. You're not sat in a garage with fans on you, and you get in just before you go. So yeah, pretty warm, but once you get going, you get the flow through, as Alex Albon's going to be experiencing now. Yep, coming up to 190 miles an hour or so as we come down the start-finish straight into turn 1. 90-degree left-hander, then quick flick right through the chicane, and then right up to the wall on the left-hand side as he comes down towards 4 and 5 now. The Williams driver out on the soft tyre, everybody out on a brand new set of soft tyres, or everyone that's gone out so far. Still in the pits, we've got the Red Bulls, the Astons, the Mercedes and the Alpines. Everybody else is out on circuit as Albon now heads down towards turn 13 after the left-hander of turn 10. Turns into that left, and off already has gone the Alpha Tauri. I think that's Tsunoda down at the first corner. I will confirm. No, it's de Vries. It is de Vries who's off at turn 1. So after missing free practice, he's overcooked it a little, coming into the first corner, Nick de Vries, and he's back on his way, but might have scuppered those tyres actually, because they looked like there was quite a lot of residual tyre smoke, as it were, sort of floating around. So we'll keep an eye on de Vries. Sargent is actually quicker than Alex Albon in Sector 1 and in Sector 2. So solid run so far from Sargent. Still the Red Bulls, Astons, Mercedes and Alpines remaining in the pit lane. Albon's coming up to the final corner now to finish his lap. Comes across the line. And the first lap of the qualifying session is a 1 minute 30.167. But Sargent, as I say, going quicker than that as he comes out across the line now. Does he go faster than Alex Albon? He does, by 0.4 of a second. So very nice lap that from Logan Sargent early on. Certainly compared to his much more experienced teammate Alex Albon. What happened to Nick de Vries then down at the first corner? Well, he locks the rears, and the car just spins around instantly. That was quite a strange one. Yeah. Well, a dramatic one, for sure. Yeah, so the rear of that car has been taken apart and put back on. So either he's not set his bias properly, which would be a big shock if that was the case. But, yeah, you can see there's quite a few flat spots on those tyres where he spun round. So a trip to the pits for him. As signs, Vettel's through now, turn 8, 9, and this is where we saw quite a few people slowing down in FP3 and not having their team badgering them over the radio saying about traffic. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's quite a dangerous section of circuit to have a slow car poodling along on the racing line, as it were. See signs, Fez past a Williams who's managed to move off the racing line, and through turn 16 now. Sorry to all you sinkers out there. We've got 13 minutes and 14 seconds, 13, 12, 11, 13 minutes, 10 seconds left on the clock. Sargent quickest, Hulkenberg second, Albon third. Sainz is 1.1 seconds down off of Logan Sargent, but we saw the Ferraris doing build laps in the practice sessions earlier on, but 1 second off isn't really a build lap, to be honest, and Leclerc is only 0.2 off, so it must have been a mistake early on from Carlos Sainz, I think.
Yeah.
Did a 33.3. He was half a second down in sector 1 compared to Logan Sargent. In his middle sector was a bit more representative, so maybe an error in the first sector for Carlos Sainz. He does a 1 minute 31.0, slowest of anybody. Charles Leclerc in the other Ferrari now goes second fastest behind Nico Hulkenberg, who's at the top of the times on a 1 minute 29.875. So still not exactly rapid pace from Ferrari as Fred Vasseur sits and watches on the pit wall.
Well, yeah, we don't actually know Ferrari's pace, do we really? Because there's been so much talk of them having their engine turned down. Obviously, as you mentioned, a mistake clearly somewhere along the line for Carlos Sainz, because Leclerc's pulled it out and popped into P2. They're all going to be nudged down a little bit more as Perez is lighting up the timing screen now with purple in the middle sector, and here he's feathering through traffic through 25. Flat out section down now into 27, where stamp on the brakes, get the car rotated, back on the power to go down the extremely long main straight.
Hamilton and Russell on laps as well in the Mercedes. Perez goes quickest on a 1 minute 29.261. That's 0.6 quicker than Hulkenberg. Hamilton goes up into 4th place, slightly slower than the Ferrari. Russell goes up into 3rd position now. So Hamilton gets shuffled down to 5th. Verstappen is going quicker than them all, though. A 1 minute 28.761 for Verstappen. Half a second quicker than Perez, 1.1 seconds quicker than anyone else. We've still got the Alpines are on outlaps, and Alonso and Stroll yet to leave the pit lane in the Aston Martins. Yeah. Andrew Benson, BBC's chief F1 writer.
I think Alonso and Stroll will be just running this session with one set of tyres. Remember, they had one set of soft tyres fewer than nearly everybody else apart from Red Bull. So Red Bull have gone early with their laps. They'll park in the pits now, I would imagine, because no one's touching them. And I think Alonso and Stroll will go out for their first run sort of in the second part of the session. Bit of a risk, obviously, going once, because if you do make a mistake, then you are potentially out, but they can afford to take it relatively easy, the Aston Martins, and still get through, I would have thought.
Well, the other risk you have here is a red flag or the like, don't you? So maybe they'll go in that middle ground when everyone comes back into the pits rather than wait right until the end and just be a little out of sync. Yeah, in fact, they've just left the pit lane now as everybody else is returning. So that's the strategy at Aston Martin.
Yeah, it was about this time last year that there was a red flag, actually. Latifi down at turn 16. So it can be possible, for sure, leaving it late and then trying to be safe. Time obviously stops in qualifying, but then it's that rush where everybody wants that same bit of track space, same bit of clear air, and queuing in the pit lane, that the clock doesn't stop for that.
Oh, I think Norris clipped the wall on the inside there, coming through the final corner of turn 27. I think he clipped the wall on the left, and that nearly sent him into the wall on the right. His teammate Piastri's about to come across the line and go 8th fastest, but Norris heads back to the pit lane.
Yeah, it's there where the wall, even though he's slightly locked up, that wall heads for you quickly as Piastri pops up into P8. McLaren's looking certainly better than they were at Bahrain, that's for sure, as Norris is up on the wheels, rolled back into the garage. Can't see any. Oh yeah, there is a little bit of a mark. You're right, Jack, on the inside front left.
Turned into the final corner. Oh, that looks like it might have done the steering
some damage.
arm.
That has done some damage for sure.
I damaged the box.
Punched the box out.
I hit the wall. Front left steering.
So steering damage for Lando Norris. That could potentially put him out of the session, to be honest. It's not going to be a quick fix.
No, not going to be a quick fix. We know we're going to expect signs to pop up. It's 2.3 off. Esteban Ocon, we're coming round turn 13 now, so I think if they can't get this car fixed, that might be game over, as they're spinning Alonso as well.
Alonso has had a spin. Fernando Alonso in I think that might be turns 1 and 2. to be honest, all 4.
That's not going to be good for his tyres either.
No, so we'll see what happened with Alonso, but he's had a little bit of a spin. We'll see whether he can go again on this same set. It was at turn 2 that Alonso had his spin on the second corner on the circuit. Obviously, the right-hander. Less than 8 minutes to go. Hamilton and Russell doing more push laps. They are 7th and 10th respectively at the moment, but 7th for Russell and 10th for Hamilton. So they would be. They're going to. A lot of these teams are going to struggle to go through on one set of tyres, I think. I think the Red Bulls can and the Astons can. Ferrari, Leclerc's 3rd quickest, 6/10 away from Verstappen. Sainz's 4th quickest, make that 5th quickest because Hamilton goes up into 4th. They've only got 7/10 down to Tsunoda and De Vries, and actually we're yet to have the Alpines finish their lap. Gasly's just done a 1 minute 30.6, which is a bit of a slow one. Might have got a yellow flag from Alonso potentially. Here comes Stroll across the line, and he only goes 14th fastest. So, but again, that was another.
That's not enough. That's not enough
No.
to do one run. So we're going to see what's happened to Alonso now. Hits the brakes, turns it in.
Greedy.
Yeah, bit greedy with the throttle. Just managed to keep the engine. So hard to keep the engine alive with the clutch when you're spinning. The wheel's got a mind of its own, but he manages to keep it alive just about.
I just wonder whether Stroll had a yellow flag or something at that. But then you would have backed off actually that early in the lap and not completed a relatively quick lap.
We're seeing quite significant steps forward on second laps. Jack, Stephen Leclerc's moved up to 3rd. Russell and Hamilton have moved up to 4th and 5th. Hulkenberg and Magnussen, who were 7th and 8th in the Hasses, they both made improvements, significant improvements on their second runs, which is interesting. But that's explaining, I think, perhaps why Stroll's not so quick on his first run. We might see him jump forward on a second lap.
So Alonso is on his first lap, and he's going quicker than Lando Norris at the moment, who's on the bubble in 15th position, a 32.5, so 3/10 down on Verstappen in Sector 1. At the moment, the eliminated cars, 16th Tsunoda, 17th De Vries, 18th Gasly. Alonso and Sargent yet to set a lap time. So Sargent had his lap time deleted for track limits at turn 27.
So is that where there were bollards out somewhere on the circuit? That's not where the bollards were, where they said the white line. I can't believe there's track limits on a street
corner,
circuit,
isn't it? It's the final corner, 27.
Yeah, no, very good point.
So I don't know where, unless he's just gone way deep.
Just gone deep, but
And off the circuit. But he did quite a good lap time, I thought. Quicker than Albon, wasn't he, by 3/10 on that at the very start of the session?
Unless maybe he ran wide to try and open up the corner to get on the gas,
yes.
to get a good run down the straight. They thought,
Smart.
yeah, we've spotted that, so we're going to
In fact,
have a little look now.
Yeah, we're getting a replay of it. Gets onto the brakes. Well, he just kind of took the corner normally.
No, I have pit lane. No.
Okay, your lap was deleted for track limit turn 27.
Man, T27, you can't go off.
That's such a weird one for Sargent. Now he's put
So-
2 wheels over the white line on the left-hand side as he comes
think
down the
that's just
start straight.
ridiculous, yeah.
But that's not. But 2 wheels off the circuit is fine.
So this keeps changing, and it's frustrating for fans. It's frustrating for
Here we
drivers. The track limit. Oh, it just does my head in. But they will say we've got a yellow flag in sector 3.
Oh, and it's the Williams of Sargent. So Sargent, after having his lap time deleted, is now facing the wrong way at turn 22. Very odd position to be in out of 22. I think he's just had it. Well, yeah, he's had a full spin through 180 degrees, and is now getting back on his way, Logan Sargent. But after a bizarre lap time deletion, a mysterious lap time deletion, he's now had a spin, and that's going to compromise a few runners. Alonso's done a lap to put himself 4th quickest, but his teammate Stroll is 15th. So let me give you the quick order. Top 15. Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Alonso, Russell, Hamilton, Sainz, Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Joe, Piastri, Albon, Bottas, Ocon and Stroll, the 15 drivers that would advance at the moment. Eliminated will be Norris, Tsunoda, De Vries, Gasly and Sargent. Stroll improves to go up to 10th, because by the time he got to sector 3, the yellow flag had gone in. Same is true of Kevin Magnussen, who goes up into 8th position. Andrew.
So, Jack, in the race director's event notes, it's very clear, except in a case of force majeure, the crossing by any part of the tyre in any direction of the painted area between the pit entry and the track by a driver is prohibited, and they've even illustrated it with a little drawing with a smiley face.
Oh, well, there we go. Well, that explains. And he did go over onto that painted section. So, and he had a big moment at 22.
Like last year, it was, if you go at certain corners, it will give you go over, or four wheels, as we see Sargent just losing the rear. Plain and simple, probably a bit frustrated, a bit angry. I think it's a bit too hard.
Sorry, Alice. I think it's the consistency, isn't it? Because there was a controversy, if you remember, during the Monaco Grand Prix about Max Verstappen and whether he'd crossed the line on the exit of the pits during the race. And Ferrari actually protested, thinking that the rule was saying one thing and actually it had changed to say something else. So the protest was thrown out and he was allowed to keep his win. But yeah, it's one of those frustrations. But it's, you know, the drivers in this case, he can't really complain because it is there.
No, totally agree. But yeah, the consistency needs to be better. It needs to not be chopping and changing from one weekend to the next. Just put gravel there, put gravel or grass. Then we won't have a problem, will we? Go back to the old school as we were talking about in free practice. Yeah, or a wall. Just stick a wall there.
Or as we were saying earlier, design the track better so the pit lane doesn't have to be on the racing line.
So Lando Norris is still in the pits, as is Max Verstappen, and they're working hard on that McLaren, but he looks like he might be out of the session, Lando Norris. We've got less than 2 minutes to go, so yeah, he is. So Norris is going to be eliminated in this first part of qualifying. Who is going to join him? Sargent's only just left the pit lane with 1 minute. He must have left with about 1:40 out there, so he's going to have to push on his outlap to even get a lap done. So, final lap times coming in Q1. At the moment, Norris would be knocked out, but he will be because he's not left the pit lane. Tsunoda, De Vries, Gasly and Sargent. Sound you can hear is the Alpine of Esteban Ocon coming down to 13. At the moment, Leclerc has gone third fastest, only a tenth slower than Sergio Perez, so that'll be encouraging for the Ferrari squad. Perez has gone out on a used set of tyres. The Mercedes are on a used set of tyres as well. So they, none of them feeling that they need to bolt on a new set just yet, as Ocon comes through turn 22. Over the curb on the exit. He's half a second down on Verstappen after the first 2/3 of the lap. His teammate Pierre Gasly is a tenth up on Ocon, who's 15th, so that doesn't really help you well. Alonso's just on the fastest middle sector of the session so far. Albon jumps up to 11th in the Williams. Stroll's only 8 thousandths down on Verstappen after sector 1. Ocon goes up into 7th place. Pierre Gasly is coming through in a moment. He's currently 19th fastest. Gasly jumps up to 11th. So that's a bit more positive for the Alpine, but I tell you what, I wouldn't be too comfortable if I was Alpine there, with Gasly in 11th.
No, it was a poor middle sector from Gasly, as now riding on board with Stroll, hustling the car through 24.
Sainz has gone up to 5th quickest in the Ferrari and taken the checkered flag. Stroll, as you say, coming towards the final corner, 200 miles an hour before he gets onto the brakes, goes down to 3rd gear, and 67 miles an hour on the apex before getting on the throttle again, heading out. Hülkenberg goes up into 6th place, so Gasly's now dropped down to 12th. Lance Stroll goes up into 4th place, so that means Gasly's still there in 12th. It's Piastri who's on the edge at the moment. Joe goes up into 9th spot. Alex Albon's going to be in trouble here, as is Gasly, and Albon is down to 15th position, so it's going to be Piastri, Tsunoda and De Vries that are trying to improve. Tsunoda gets through. Albon gets knocked out. Well, Tsunoda's through for the moment, but De Vries, his teammate, might be able to knock him out of that 15th position, and he can't. So it's going to be Piastri or Tsunoda that will be eliminated from this first part of qualifying, along with Albon, De Vries, Norris and Sargent. Piastri coming into the final corner. The Australian in his second Formula One race drives towards the line. Can he get into the second part of qualifying? He can. Up into 11th position. So Tsunoda knocked out in 16th. Albon knocked out in 17th. 18th for De Vries. 19th for Lando Norris after after hitting the wall and breaking the car. And Sargent stopped in the first half of in the first sector of the lap. So Logan Sargent, after going out earlier, getting his lap time deleted, then having a big spin at turn 22 has stopped in the first sector, so didn't actually get a lap in. That's a bit of a mysterious one.
He didn't touch the wall or anything, so that is bizarre. There is yellow flags, it says on our screen, in sector 1 and 2. So, yeah, he must have either had an issue somewhere, but we can't see anything saying what the issue is just yet. But good job from Bottas, just sneaking through.
Well, it's incredibly close. 4/10 from Albon in 17th to Hulkenberg in 7th. So very, very tight between that lot, that's for sure. Bottas just about making it through the Mercedes. Okay, they didn't go out again on new tyres, but actually Joe, Piastri, Magnussen and Bottas were the only drivers who did. The Alpines just about made it through on that one set of tyres, with Ocon in 12th and Gasly in 14th. Here's Nick de Vries on the radio.
Messed up the last corner.
Nick de Vries saying he messed up the last corner. 3/10 adrift of going through, and 3/10 adrift of his teammate Yuki Tsunoda. Nick de Vries in his 3rd Formula One race for the Dutchman from Snake. I think it's called Snake. I think you pronounce it Snake. Andrew Benson, I was looking for his assistance, but he's off. He's just leaving the commentary booth, so he's had enough. He's got his pit strategy all wrong.
So this is, are we going to get a replay of what happened to Sargent? So as he locked up, approaching turn 1, locks up, goes over the raised curb.
Then hits the wall.
Oh, it's over. I think I have to stop.
Okay.
So yeah,
somebody's broke.
So he'd already lost. Did he hit? Yeah, I think he did hit it.
So rear left. So he's basically made a mistake, frustration, gone over the curb. He had his lap time deleted prior to that, so that's why he's frustrated. Then spun, then gone over the curb and just lit up the rear, as we see a replay of de Vries. Is it brushing the wall as well?
Yeah, on the exit of turn 13.
So, yeah, Sargent, a bit of an experience there. Getting a bit frustrated.
That was a proper rookie Q1, that was for Sargent, bless him. Because he had good pace on that opening lap, quicker than Alex Albon by 3/10 of a second. So the pace was there. There's encouragement to take, but track limits and a couple of spins, not ideal.
Yep, just shows on a street circuit as well that
got to be alert on a street circuit.
Lit up the rear kicked out. And Kevin Magnussen, didn't really speak about him too much, but looking nice and calm in his cockpit, having the fan keeping him cool as he waits patiently to head back out for Q2.
13th quickest in the Haas. His teammate Nico Hulkenberg ended up 7th quickest. Hulkenberg was on a used set of tyres as well for, well, 5 laps, so not absolutely fresh, but also not absolutely used. And Magnussen was out on a set of new tyres, so we'll see what Hulkenberg can do in the next part of qualifying, which will get underway in 1 minute and 32 seconds time. This is going to be there's a chance of some. I think we're in for some surprises actually in this next. Well, if it's the 2 Alfa Romeos, the 2 Haas, and Oscar Piastri that get eliminated, that's kind of what you would anticipate. But there's a real chance of a Mercedes not making it through into Q3, or I mean maybe a Ferrari. They look sort of all right, but even the Alpines would be quite a shock if they don't make it.
Well,
through.
yeah, Alpine have showed some good pace this weekend in the free practice sessions, at least anyway, as Hulkenberg's being waved out of the garage as they all make their way onto the track, or queuing up the end of the pit lane, as we've still got 47 seconds until it goes green. But yeah, it's hard to pick really who you'd be sending through in this session. As you said, you'd expect Magnussen maybe to pop up, but Piastri, he's running a risk as well. He'll be looking for, it'd be mega for him if he did make it through into Q3. But I wouldn't want to be out picking them now, who's going to make it through. But track temperature is cooler than it was in free practice 3 by about 5 degrees, so it's not uncommon this weekend, even so, to see drivers taking an extra lap to warm up those tyres. So really make sure that they're heating them from inside out and you're not scrubbing the top of the tyre too early. So those queuing at the front of the pit lane, I would expect, will be going out, doing a build and then a push.
I think there's a lot of pressure here, Jack and Alice, on Alpine. They came out of Bahrain after a difficult weekend feeling that their car was better than it looked. They didn't think it was going to be a good track for them. It wasn't a good track for them last year either, so they're expecting a difficult weekend, and then it was for various reasons. You know, as we've discussed before, multitude of penalties for Esteban Ocon, and Pierre Gasly, okay, got into the points from starting at the back of the grid. They're expecting to have a better weekend in Saudi Arabia, and there have been the odd occasions during practice where they looked quite quick, but it's not been convincing, and they certainly weren't convincing in the first session of qualifying there. I think if they get knocked out in this second session now, that's going to raise some quite big questions about whether they're going to achieve their aims this year, which, if we remember, at the beginning of the year was to finish fourth again and close on the top three. They've already got Aston Martin as a problem. If they're going to be, you know, being knocked out in Q2 on a regular basis, that's not good for them.
Is this an I think we've got enough time to get into this a little bit. Is it unfair to say that Alpine, the actual kind of team, hasn't changed in years? Like, even since sort of the Renault days of ownership. Okay, we've had sort of new team principals.
Well, they got rid of their technical director recently. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Nick Chester got fired, didn't he? And I think he did some work in Formula E, didn't he?
Oh yeah, I think he did.
And they've got a new technical director.
But it's still
there.
sort of all your Alan Permains and your Kyron Pilbeams and it's still sort of called, when you compare it to like Aston Martin, who are going out and signing Dan Fallows, you know.
Well, Fernando Alonso was quite brutal about them in the build-up to this season, where, you know, he didn't name them, but it was obvious he was referring to them. He said, you know, some of these teams think they'll be, you know, they're always happy with fourth, or if they finish seventh in the race, there's celebration. And he was contrasting that with Aston Martin, saying, here, we'll only celebrate when we win, which isn't quite true, because they had a big celebration. Exactly. But I think his point, to paraphrase what he was probably trying to say, was, you know, that team's going to be fourth forever, was the sort of underlying message that he was trying to put out there. I think they would say that's not fair. They're on this 5-year plan, or 100 race plan, as they've rephrased it to be. When they reset for Alpine, having already had a 5-year plan for when they were Renault. But as I say, on the face of it so far, let's see how they get on in this session, but they're not making the progress that they want to be making. Everybody
out on circuit bar Sergio Perez. Perez still in the pit lane. Everybody else has joined the track. 12 minutes and 12 seconds on the clock. And Fernando Alonso is going quickly in the first sector now, as he comes up towards the middle sector timing split at turn 22, swings it into the left-hander. So much speed through there. It's just fantastic, that corner. It hasn't actually been ruined, to be honest. It's just like a bit slower, but it's still really, really quick. So I'm pleased with that. They haven't like 130R'd it or anything like that.
No, it's that bit. They've left the big curve there on the outside as well, just to warn people that, yeah, we've tightened this up. You can still carry speed through, but you hit that curb a bit wrong, fire into the barriers, as Alonso, purple, blitzes it to the top of the times.
Half a second quicker than he did in Q1. Stroll finds a 1/10 of a second from Q1 and goes second quickest. Then it's Bottas and Zhou in third and fourth. Currently up at turn 22 is Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. He's the first of the two Ferrari drivers on the circuit. Ocon slots into third place at the moment, ahead of Oscar Piastri, who already has his best qualifying performance of his Formula One career, having started in 18th last time out in Bahrain. Sainz heading towards the line now, and he goes fifth fastest, slower than Piastri. Charles Leclerc comes through, and he finds a bit more time. He goes second quickest, 3/10 slower than Alonso, ahead of Lance Stroll. And so it is Alonso, Leclerc, Stroll, Ocon, Piastri, Hamilton, the top five. Hamilton now up into fifth place. Russell then goes ahead of Hamilton up into fifth, both slower than the Alpine of Ocon. Gasly is on his lap at the moment, and Sergio Perez still in the pits. So I just wonder if there's an issue there for Sergio Perez, because he did one run Well, you know, he went out again in Q1, just used one set of tyres, but
He's just coming out now, I think. Just
oh yeah, there
out now.
He's fine. Relax.
Just on that lap by Alonso, that's quicker than Max Verstappen did in the first session. I mean, I know it's the second session, it was his Verstappen's radio.
Oh, big moment.
Turn 22 for Verstappen. On the exit, had a big load of wheel spin and oversteer. That could have been straight to the wall.
That would have changed quality, wouldn't it? that would have. I was going to use the word spiced it up, but I'm not just yet. That would have changed it for sure. But he's back on it now. He's calmed himself down, recovered himself as he's pushing through turn 10, 11 into 12. Really quick succession of corners. As
backed off, isn't he? He's backed off.
Yeah, 13.
And is he going to get a tow here from Perez as they come down this? Oh no, he's at 13, isn't he? So
yeah, I don't know why he's. It maybe felt like he made a mistake. Didn't go purple in the first sector. It was a shock for match, unless he's got.
He's still in 7th gear.
He's got an issue, no gears.
He's managing to go down through the gears now.
I have a problem. Engine problem.
So Max Verstappen crawling around out there. He's got down into 3rd gear. He's got no drive.
No drive, yeah, no drive.
Verstappen might not be taking part in qualifying here or in the rest of qualifying. He's it sounds like the gears are all working and everything, but there's no kind of drive shaft.
He's got no drive whatsoever, so he's just going to try and. But he's got some kind, because he's still crawling. The car would have stopped by now.
Yeah.
So there's something happening as Red Bull sort of looking a bit shocked. As I thought P1 was 100% going to be on the cards for Max. He's definitely got drive because he's still moving at a decent enough pace if you're on the road. So he's going to get that back to the garage.
Well, have a listen to this. Coming through the first sector. Coming towards 13. Ooh, that's it.
Almost like it hits like a neutral or something, doesn't it?
It's like you've just driving along and then you just whack the clutch in. Is kind of what it sounded like. So but he's, as you say, he does have some drive because he is moving.
And an unhappy Jos Verstappen puts the headphones down. All different kinds of language, I'm sure, flying out of his mouth right now, but
that looked quite final from Jos, didn't it? The way he was reacting there. It wasn't like, oh, he'll get it sorted, here's some radio.
It's almost not accelerating.
Okay, understood, Max. Well, we'll do what we can. We're happy for you to try and limp home if possible.
Well, he's just coming down the start-finish straight now and coming into the pit lane, Max Verstappen. His teammate Sergio Perez is a quarter of a second down on Fernando Alonso after the first 2 sectors. But Max Verstappen returning to the pit lane with an issue in his Red Bull. 7 minutes and 5 seconds to go. Charles Leclerc is coming through the middle sector now and improving on this run. Sergio Perez across the line, and he doesn't beat Fernando Alonso's time. A 10th of a second slower than Fernando Alonso. Charles Leclerc coming into turn 27 now.
Signs as someone just had their lap time deleted. Hulkenberg.
Yep, so Hulk's had it deleted for turn 27. That shout was a Red Bull mechanic at the Formula One cameraman saying, "Get out the way here, we're trying to fix this car." Christian Horner sitting arms folded, pivoted round on the pit wall, looking back across the pit lane into the garage with a concerned look on his face, as you might well imagine.
Smiles in the Aston Martin camp.
And Verstappen's getting out.
Yep.
Steering wheel out, belts coming off. Max Verstappen won't be starting on pole position for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. He will be starting 15th at best. Climbs out of the car, and the session is done for Verstappen.
50p says he still wins the race.
Oh, yeah. I'm not taking those odds. But look, let's just cross that bridge when we come to it. Max Verstappen making his way down now to the FIA garage to get weighed, but we heard, wow, the car just lost drive. And Verstappen's out.
I'm almost speechless.
Yeah.
You know, we were sat here saying Red Bull, Max has got it, and yeah, here we go. He could have had it if his car was wanting to play ball today as he approaches the weigh bridge. Get weighed, regardless if you finish the session or not. You've got to go and get weighed, make sure everything's in check.
And just obviously, the Verstappen thing is the biggest story here right now, and obviously, and him being 15th, so not what anybody expected. But just to complete a point I was making earlier, that lap time from Fernando Alonso in that first run, 29.75, quicker than Verstappen managed in Q1. Obviously, there's track evolution involved. We're just watching a replay of Carlos Sainz making an error. I wondered why he'd been so slow on that first
Ferrari
run.
does not look happy, does it?
But he's always Larry here, Sainz. He had a huge spin last year as well at 7 or 10. I can't remember which.
But quicker than Perez on the first run. I'm not saying he's going to be able to compete with the one remaining Red Bull for pole, but that's quite an eye-opening performance, I think, from that Aston Martin car with Alonso in it.
Yeah, well, long way to go. We fell for this last time, Andrew, so, you know, we've got to learn.
Last time we fell for it in practice, to be fair, not in qualifying.
And Q1.
Oh, was it?
And Q1. It was Q2 where it all started to go downhill. Alonso quickest at the moment, Perez second, Leclerc third, Stroll, Ocon, Russell, Magnussen, Hamilton, Gasly, Piastri. That's the top 10 at the moment. Eliminated as it stands, Sainz, Bottas, Joe, Hülkenberg and Verstappen. Verstappen won't be going through to the next part of qualifying. Just a quick one, Andrew. Did AlphaTauri have reliability issues in Bahrain? I'm just trying to think. Why was Gasly at the back? Did he have a...
Oh, that's Alpine, Gasly.
Oh, yeah, sorry, good point. But I think they were fine. But my question, because...
But what's interesting about AlphaTauri is that they had reliability problems at the beginning of last year, if you remember.
Yeah.
Well, actually, so did Red Bull. But AlphaTauri's kept going for a while, and there was questions at that time whether that would affect Red Bull, which it never did. But here they are having them again at the start of another season.
And because they had to change Nick de Vries's power unit earlier on today. Hamilton goes up into fifth position. Lance Stroll goes fourth, fastest now in the Aston Martin. George Russell's on a lap currently. He's seventh quickest at the moment. He's just coming out of the final quarter at 27 across the line. And Russell goes up into fourth place. So at the moment, eliminated Sainz, Joe, Bottas, Hülkenberg and Verstappen. 3 minutes to go.
Sainz, what an uncomfortable position for him to be in. Clearly not happy with the car. He's been lagging behind Charles Leclerc all weekend, really, as he sends it into turn 1 through turn 2. Eager on the gas. Gets it out. That actually might be a warm-up lap.
Yeah, I think it is.
It's hard to say. Hard to say with the Ferrari at the moment. But pressure for him, because he'll know that the sister car is sitting there pretty in P3. He's had that moment, which as a driver, you know, you can feel the grip underneath you, but if you don't feel pretty confident with the grip, you then struggle to commit to push it through. And as we've seen in previous years, mistakes like that, or one small error, whether it's from having lack of grip or driver error, that's you into the wall, and that can really ruin the weekend. So it's a tough one for Sainz as he's building up the tyres. We see Fred Vasseur looking, I'd say, a little bit concerned on the pit wall. But yeah, can you say it's hammer time for Sainz? I guess so. You know, we'll have to think of a new terminology and not Nick Bono's.
Jennifer says, serves you all right for assuming. Every single pundit said Max is a shoo-in for pole. Fair play.
We jinxed it.
Yeah.
Commentator's curse.
So Leclerc in the pits, everybody else out on circuit, bar Verstappen, who's in the pits and won't be going through to the next part of qualifying. On a lap at the moment, Piastri, Joe and Bottas. Sainz is coming through the final corner now to start his lap. He's just finding a gap and then going nice and wide into 27 on the power and out across the line to start his lap. He's the big name really in 11th place, missing out on Q3 as it stands. Lance Stroll going very quickly through the first sector, almost quicker than Fernando Alonso as he comes through there. Loses a bit of time towards the end of it, but still on a good lap. Bit of a slide on the power from Sainz as he now has a fairly all or nothing lapping coming here. The sound you can hear is the Ferrari driver coming towards. Oh, it had a little correction there.
Happy. So here's where he had the big snap before. sailed through there nicely that time, but it does look on the edge. He's up, though, 3/10 up on Piastri so far in the first sector.
Piastri currently on the bubble in 10th place. Eliminated would be Sainz, Joe, Bottas, Hülkenberg and Verstappen. Magnussen is 4/10 down on Alonso through the first sector. Currently 9th quickest. Piastri goes up into 7th. Joe goes up into 8th. The checkered flag is out. Well, it's going to be, this maybe from Piastri. It's a possible one, but Bottas is improving. No, Bottas comes across the line and only 11th quickest, so Joe has out-qualified Bottas. Hülkenberg is finding a bit of time through the final couple of corners now, out across the line for Nico Hülkenberg, and he goes from 14th up to 8th. So Ocon is right on the limit now, but he's about to improve too. That'll shuffle Joe down. Bottas and Verstappen are out already. Joe is now on the bubble in 10th position. Both Alfa Romeo's in trouble because Magnussen is coming through. There goes Sainz up into 4th place. So it's Hülkenberg in 10th position now. Will he get eliminated by Kevin Magnussen, his teammate at Haas? Across the line he comes, Magnussen. He doesn't. So it's Gasly or Hülkenberg. Those are the two. One of them will be eliminated. Right now, Hülkenberg is going through. Piastri has made it through to Q3 for the first time in his Formula One career. But here comes Pierre Gasly towards the line in the Alpine. His teammate Ocon through in 7th place, and Gasly just scrapes through in 10th spot for the Alpine team, 400ths faster than Hülkenberg. So it's Hülkenberg in 11th for Haas, 12th for Joe in Alfa Romeo, 13th Kevin Magnussen in the other Haas, 14th the other Alfa Romeo of Valtteri Bottas, and Max Verstappen 15th for the Red Bull team. And his teammate Sergio Perez went quicker than Alonso right at the end there.
I think Hülkenberg will be really disappointed with that, to be honest. He was looking pretty well in all practice sessions, in all honesty, this weekend. So I think he'll be pretty disappointed. Maybe there was a small mistake somewhere along the line. But yeah, he'll be certainly disappointed, as Alpine will be breathing a sigh of relief that both their cars are through into Q3. But Piastri, really happy for him after the woes that he had in Bahrain to get through. Obviously the only lone McLaren out at the moment due to Norris tapping the wall. Really happy. Good job by Oscar there.
So the top 10 to go through to the final part of qualifying: Perez, Alonso, Leclerc, Sainz, Stroll, Russell, Ocon, Hamilton, Piastri and Gasly. Eliminated Hülkenberg, Joe, Magnussen, Bottas and Verstappen. Lando Norris crashed out in the first part of qualifying. This is what he had to say.
Yeah, it was a silly mistake I should have made, to be honest with you. Paid the price very quickly, so frustrated. I probably should be, easily should have been into Q2, potentially Q3, and I let the team down today, so I'm not.
Did you pick up much damage in that incident?
I damaged the steering, so yeah, enough.
Okay, and what can you manage tomorrow? Can you rescue this?
I don't know yet. The potential there, like the car is better pace, I would say, than we had in Bahrain, so I want to be a little bit more hopeful, but it's probably a harder track to overtake on than Bahrain, so I don't know what to expect yet. I've not been thinking of that, so I'll see tonight.
Well, the issue he has is the times are pretty close. You know, if the field was a bit more spread out and his car was a little bit faster, then yeah, he could charge through the field. Strategy's obviously going to play a part. We saw...
Yeah, sorry for the unnecessary stress. No worries. Let's focus on Q3.
It's Carlos Sainz apologising for putting the team through the ringer a little.
Yeah, sorry, we did see a bit of a DRS train, and we were talking when we were watching the Formula 2 race, where we saw that can just sort of be a bit frustrating for quite a few of the drivers, you know, where the car in front's got DRS, so's the car in front, so's the car in front. It then makes it hard to pass. So, yeah, might have to be a little bit of strategy play, go a bit on the alternate strategy for McLaren tomorrow to try and boost Lando up the field. 7/10
from 1st to 10th in that session, from Perez all the way down to Gasly. And yeah, Gasly got through in the Alpine, but had Verstappen still been running, then wouldn't have made it through. I know that doesn't really mean anything, but you take my point. So Perez versus Alonso versus Leclerc for pole for Ferrari. What do we make of Ferrari's pace there, Andrew?
Well, just to put a bit of context on that, Perez did 2 runs, or at least he did a run at the end of the session. Leclerc did 2 runs and improved by about a tenth between his 2 runs. Alonso only did 1 run. He tried a second run. He was green, 3 green sectors, which is fastest for him at the very start of the lap, mini sectors that is. And then it looks like he made a mistake because he backed off after that and didn't do that second lap. So in theory, there's more potential in that car to go faster. Whether that means it's able to compete with a Red Bull, Perez's Red Bull for pole is a different question, but it does suggest that he should make a significant step forward. So it does look like it's between those 3 for fastest time. Let's not forget, we've not mentioned it yet, even if Leclerc does qualify fastest, he's got a 10-place grid penalty for the race tomorrow because of using too many engine parts.
So he should be starting ahead of Verstappen, in theory.
Could do. But yeah, I think Alonso is going to feel pretty confident. He just seemed to always pull it out the bag, doesn't he? Unless I hope I've not jinxed him now. We seem to be jinxing everybody, don't we?
When was his last pole, Andrew?
Hockenheim 2012.
Thank you.
If there's a weakness to Fernando Alonso's driving, I would say it's the very last tenth or half a tenth in qualifying, and he would admit it himself. He gets to the sort of limit of the car very quickly in a weekend, but he admitted to me actually when we were having a chat in Bahrain, he sometimes doesn't go with the track evolution and the new tyre progress in the same way that other drivers do, because it's almost like he doesn't feel that it's there. I don't know why that's the case, but
is that I know you probably did, but is that a new phenomenon, or is that his whole career?
No, I think it's been obvious for a while. What we were talking about at the time was how he would be half a second quicker than Ocon when they were Alpine teammates at the start of the weekend, but Ocon would end up pretty much level with him in qualifying. So I'm not saying he's rubbish at qualifying, don't get me wrong, this is Fernando Alonso we're talking about, but it's not the strongest part of his game. That's not to say he can't compete for pole. It does look like he can, but it is a Red Bull ahead of him.
Well, track evolution from Q1, so the fastest time in Q1 was a 1:29.244, and then Q2 a 1:28.635. So certain track evolution there, and they're just sort of brushing off the rubber from the Formula 2 in a sense, and wearing down their own rubber, clearing the track up as well from the trucks driving the fans around that we saw on the screens an hour or so ago. So yeah, track evolution, but Max Verstappen, he's not going to be worried about track evolution now, is he, as he's goes back to his motorhome. And we saw something fly off the Red Bull there,
just coming through turn just before the car died, something sort of came off the back of the Red Bull, but I can't tell you what that piece was.
He did when he got his I missed it when he got his moment of oversteer. Did he go over the curb at all?
No, because that's what I was expecting. I was expecting he runs a bit like Hamilton in Hockenheim a few years ago, although those things were claimed to be entirely unrelated, but when he sort of bounced over the curbs and then the engine died, but I was expecting something like that, but it was just fairly standard, to be honest.
Yeah, no idea. And first out the pits, eager to go, is Fernando Alonso.
So Alonso onto the circuit, final part of qualifying, the battle for pole position. The top 10 will be Alonso, Leclerc, Sainz, Ocon, Gasly, who are all on the circuit. That's the Fernando Alonso song. It's not quite Supermax, is it?
Not quite.
I'm just trying to work out what's that. Are
you going to show us?
I think it's the "I Love You, Baby" thing, isn't it? Na 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 na. Who was that? Benson? Who sang that? Kool and the Gang. Was it Kool and the Gang?
I just remember it.
Baby, Give It Up or something.
I remember it in The Deer Hunter. Is where I can remember that song from.
What? What's that mean?
No, they sang it in The Deer Hunter.
Oh, is that a movie? Oh, I thought you were talking about...
Sorry, what have you just said?
I don't... I've never heard of the Deer Hunter movie.
I'm looking at the producer in absolute disbelief.
I thought you were talking about like some club in Sheffield.
Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken. It's one of the greatest movies of all time. Meryl Streep.
I mean, I've heard of all those people. Sorry, everybody.
I've heard of all those people, but yeah, not the.
That's my... In between here and Australia, I watched The Deer Hunter. How about that? Is it about deer?
Being hunted, I presume?
there is a deer hunt in it, 2 actually, but it's not.
No spoilers. I don't want spoilers.
It's not about that. It's about.
Is it a metaphor?
It's a war movie.
Oh, okay.
Sort of. Well, it's more than a war movie. It's multifaceted, as so many great movies are. Watch it.
Okay.
You won't regret it.
No, I doubt I will. Fernando Alonso into turn 1. Oh, really sent it in deep. Got it in just about. Coming now through turns towards turn 4.
Close to the barrier there as well. I mean, he will say have it all under control, but very, very close to the barrier. Through 6, 7, 8. It's nearly too quickly, we can't keep up. Depends how fast you can count, but through 10 now. Into 12. And he can have a bit of a breather down the straight, but only a short one as he flicks it into 13. Eager on the gas, bit too eager, snap of oversteer. Another quick breather before he orders it all over again.
And that is the fastest first sector of anybody. My dad's just texted me saying that the deer hunter made him cry. Never seen him cry. Wow, this is okay.
I don't know if I want to watch a sad film. I'm probably not going to watch it, sorry.
Here comes Alonso
for me.
to turn 22 now. Swings it through the left-hander. He's on the fastest first sector of the qualifying session so far here, Fernando Alonso. Middle sector is reasonable, but a couple of tenths slower than he managed previously. Pierre Gasly comes across the line to set the benchmark time of a 1 minute 29.655. Oh, Alonso wrestling with the car right up to the wall on the exit, comes across the line and goes quicker than Gasly by 0.7 of a second. Leclerc's quick in the middle sector though, in the Ferrari. Russell and Hamilton are on laps as well. Sergio Perez is on his out lap. Stroll and Piastri both in the pits, so they're probably just going to do one run. Across the line comes Carlos Sainz. He goes third fastest. Leclerc is going quicker than Alonso here, drives to the line, and Leclerc goes to provisional pole for the time being. Charles Leclerc quicker than Fernando Alonso by almost 0.2 of a second. Then it's half a second back to Ocon in third, and Sainz in fourth. 0.9 back to Gasly in fifth. Ocon, to be fair, Ocon, Sainz and Gasly all on a used set of tyres. The Mercedes are on new sets as Russell and Hamilton come through the first sector. Oh, bad first sector for Hamilton. Russell has gone pretty quickly in sector 1 and pretty well in sector 2 here. Russell's going to be there or thereabouts with Leclerc and Alonso. Drives towards the line now. Hamilton will be first across the line. He goes up into third place. 0.3 away from Alonso and half a second away from Charles Leclerc. Lost a lot of time in sector 1. George Russell goes second.
Wow.
Russell goes second in the Mercedes, 0.1 or so away from Charles Leclerc. So the order: Leclerc, Russell, Alonso, Hamilton, the new tyre runners, but Perez is on a lap now. Very wide.
Not purple though. It's not purple in the first sector. He's in the speed trap if you want to count that, but feathering it through 17 into 18. Get the car then as straight as possible, as smooth as possible.
Through the middle sector, he's 0.2 up on Charles Leclerc. Quick through turn 22 now as well, and the Red Bull has looked fairly strong in the final sector throughout the weekend. One more corner to go. The two Ferraris keeping to the inside and out of the way of Perez as he comes towards the line now, and Perez goes faster than Charles Leclerc by half a second.
Yeah, take that, he'll say. Take that, Max who? Max who? No, that's a strong lap from Perez and Red Bull. That's what Red Bull want. They want a driver that can pull it out the bag. Okay, yeah, it's not over yet, but that's a good start. Get a first good lap in, because then it makes the others have to really pull their socks up.
Thank you, Chris. It was Casey and the Sunshine Band, not Kool and the Gang. That's what I was getting confused about. Sergio Perez, then quickest of anyone, a 1 minute 28.265. Provisional pole, was on pole position in Jeddah last year. And he's half a second up the road from Leclerc in second, Russell in third, Alonso fourth. Just having a look at Russell heading down towards turn 13. Here's his radio.
Take damage, exit turn 10. I hit the car pretty aggressively.
It's damaged the floor, I think. Is it a little bit there? Underneath the floor, slightly. Won't affect it too much. It'll be absolutely fine.
And just to pick up on a point I was making earlier about Fernando Alonso, he's 2/10 slower on that lap than he was in Q2, whereas the other ones have all improved.
Yeah, lost it in the middle sector.
Is that right?
Do you think it's a bit of overdriving, possibly?
I don't know.
You know, he's got the car there. He knows that. But you would have thought a man of his experience, you know, all these races that he's done, he's been around for, what, 100 years. So, you know, he knows how to get the speed out of the car. So, yeah, it's quite surprising to hear that he said that he just lacks that little bit of pace as Piastri is on to set his first lap in a Q3
I wouldn't quite put
session.
it like that, was what he said. Just sometimes he doesn't go with the track evolution as much as other people, is what he was trying to say, yeah.
Piastri through that first sector, and he's 4/10 down on Sergio Perez. This is his one and only run on this new set of tyres in the final part of qualifying. Lance Stroll comes through sector 1, and he is a 32.2, so not too bad, that first sector from Stroll. Only a 10th away from Sergio Perez. See where the other Aston Martin can slot in. Of course, all the other front runners have a second run. 4 minutes and 11 seconds left on the clock. Piastri's 9/10 down after the middle sector. Coming now towards the final corner, the Australian in the McLaren. DRS wide open, gets up to 200 miles an hour before getting on the brakes. Stroll is 3.5 down on Sergio Perez, so might be able to nip ahead of the Ferrari here of Charles Leclerc. Might be quicker than his teammate Fernando Alonso, although Alonso's got to go again. Piastri goes 9th fastest, so I think he'll be slowest in Q3. Not a huge surprise, did well to get into Q3 full stop. Stroll goes only 5th, slower than Alonso. So Stroll's going to have his work cut out to start in the top 5, I think, because Hamilton, Ocon, Sainz, Gasly all should improve. 3 minutes and 18 seconds to go. Alonso's on his outlap now. Everybody else, Sainz is on his outlap too. Perez, Leclerc and Russell still in the pits. Leclerc's car firing up, and they lower the Ferrari down from the jacks. The brand new shiny set of red-walled Pirelli soft tyres adorning the Scarlet Ferrari as it pulls out of the pit lane into the pitch black Jeddah night and makes its way down towards the exit of the pit lane. Sergio Perez following him out shortly, so it'll be Sainz across the line first, then Leclerc. Sorry, no, it'll be Alonso across the... No, it will be Sainz first, then Alonso, then Leclerc, then Hamilton, then Russell, then Perez. That'll be the order that they will come through. And Sainz is starting his lap now. Down to turn 1. Has a little look to the left, and he got trafficked there by Hamilton. Sorry, Russell, I apologise. Well, he might be doing a build, Sainz, because he was quite chilled through 1 and 2. So that's the only positive.
So he's elected, it seems, then, to go out earlier than the sister car. He obviously feels that he needs to build, as we're going to see a replay of the Mercedes coming out.
Yeah, he wasn't pushing though, I'm sure he wasn't pushing.
So maybe that's what he's struggling with compared to Charles, is building that tyre temperature, getting the temperature up, because Charles obviously feels comfortable that he can just send it out straight away, first push, go, whereas Sainz clearly wants to take his time, build up, make sure the tyres are in properly before he tries to put a lap down.
Alonso's 300th down on Perez in sector 1. It's a reasonable first sector for Alonso, but not quite setting the world alight. About 600 slower than he managed previously. Middle sector was where he lost his lap time on the previous run, and he's finding some time now as he comes through turn 16. That's where he lost time on the last lap, but he's doing well here. Comes through the middle sector, and compared to Sergio Perez, he is down by 1/10 of a second. So Perez still looking good at the moment. Alonso trying to chip away and start on the front row of the grid. Leclerc is just starting his lap now. Russell across the line to start his lap. Perez will be the last across the line. Alonso onto the brakes through the final left-hander, right up to the wall on the left-hand side at turn 27. And Fernando Alonso goes second fastest. No pole today for the Spaniard. Perez starting his lap. Stroll.
Purple in sector 1 by 700.
He's like a 10th up on Fernando Alonso in the first sector here, Lance Stroll. The Canadian swinging through 13, now through 14 and 15. Quick flick right at turn 16. Perez is improving too. Leclerc's only 100th away from Perez in sector 1. Hamilton hasn't improved in the first sector. He's half a second adrift of the rest of the front runners. 3/10 slower than his teammate Russell, so Hamilton could be in trouble. Huge slide from Stroll as he comes through turn 22. Absolutely on it. Lance Stroll, it's a 28-1 in the middle sector, so he's a couple of tenths adrift. Hamilton's 7 tenths away. He might not even improve on this lap. Stroll onto the brakes into turn 27. Has had a pole position before in Turkey in changeable conditions a few years ago. Had a front row start in a Williams in Monza, again in changeable conditions. Here comes Stroll. It's only 5th. Loses a lot of time in the final sector with that slide at 22. Ocon is 6th. Hamilton is 7th, takes the checkered flag. Perez and Alonso aren't improving. Leclerc across the line, and Leclerc pips Alonso. Alonso's completed his lap, of course, so Leclerc pips Alonso. Second on the grid for him. What can his teammate Carlos Sainz do? He's the last driver to set a lap time. Perez on provisional pole. Leclerc second, Alonso third. Where will Carlos Sainz slot in the Ferrari? It's only 5th. It's Perez on pole position for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, as it was 12 months ago. Red Bull start to the front with Perez. Verstappen could be 15th on the grid, maybe a little lower if they have to change cars, but they haven't changed anything so far this season, so I'd be surprised. But it is Sergio Perez on pole position for Red Bull. Charles Leclerc alongside him on the front row. Fernando Alonso third in the Aston Martin, but actually it'll be a 10-place grid drop for Charles Leclerc. So Alonso will line up on the front row of the grid. Russell will be third on the grid then. 4th will be Sainz. 5th will be Stroll. 6th will be Ocon. 7th Hamilton. 8th Piastri. 9th Gasly.
That is pole position. Second year in a row. Pole number 2. Well done.
Good job, guys. Well done.
All of Perez's poles in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a tasty run into turn 1, isn't it? We've got
Alonso,
Perez,
yeah.
Alonso and Russell as well. We've seen him make some crazy moves and a couple of mistakes actually as well in turn 1s in recent past. So sorry, in the past. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I really am. It's going to be a good turn 1 and hopefully a good Grand Prix.
Here's Alonso's
Well
radio.
done, guys. Amazing. Let's go.
Bit of disappointment in his voice there, I think.
Yeah, well, did he manage to... Yeah, he managed to improve in Q3 by 0.02 of a second. That's all he found from Q2 to Q3, Fernando Alonso. Leclerc found half a second. Perez found 0.4. Alonso found 0.04.
Yeah.
He's no good over one lap, is he, Andrew Benson?
Back to what Andrew said, he's just struggling with the evolution there of the track. It's improving. It's a second if you go by Q1 time to Q3 time. Everybody else gained a couple of tenths, maybe a bit more. But I tell you, I reckon Leclerc will be pretty happy with that. Okay, he's got the penalty, but whether they had their engine turned down, looks like they might have had it turned down a little bit. But, you know, I think they'll be quietly happy with that.
Well, I think he'll be sort of less disappointed because he has the penalty. You know what I mean? Because he wouldn't have started on pole even if he'd have made pole, if that makes any sense. Right, we can now hear from our top 3. Khalil Bashir is speaking to Perez, Leclerc and Alonso, and we will start with Sergio Perez.
Checo, pole position again in Jeddah. How do you do this only here?
Well, yeah, it was tricky that Q3. Especially not getting that second lap. That Q1 was quite good, you know, it was quite clean, really clean, nailing that lap. You know, you really feel the Formula 1 cars coming alive in this place, and yeah, just maximizing that lap was very important, you know, because with the issue we had into this final run was really important as the track was improving.
You must be happy to hear it was only drive shaft on Max car, nothing else. It was a scare, wasn't it, in the middle of the session?
Sorry?
It was a scare for you when you saw Max's problem. You were happy it was only a drive shaft.
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame, Max has been really strong the whole weekend, so hopefully tomorrow we can have both cars up there. As you never know with these cars, reliability issues can hit you at any time.
Well, Checo, fantastic. Hopefully tomorrow it will be the one with the win, because points count tomorrow. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
So that was Sergio Perez, pole sitter. I think next we're going to hear from Charles Leclerc, who qualified second, but he will be starting a little further down in the order.
Charles Leclerc, P2. You must be happy with that. I know the penalty is there for tomorrow, unfortunately, but you must be happy with the qualifying, how it went.
Happy, yes and no. On one hand, I think it's been a very difficult weekend in terms of pace for us, but I'm very happy about my lap. I think I put everything in it. It was really, really on the limit. On the other hand, Red Bull are in another planet, and we are struggling a little bit. So we need to keep pushing, but that's what we are doing as a team. Tomorrow is not going to be easy. I have a 10 grid places penalty, so we'll be starting a little bit further back, but we'll focus on the race and hopefully come back in the front as quickly as possible.
We can't separate too much from Max, because Max is also starting from the back, but race pace was much better. Yesterday, the long runs, the car looked good on soft, also on medium. You must be looking forward for improvement from Bahrain on race pace, I mean.
Yes, the race pace looked quite good, but it's very difficult to compare, because in FP2 everybody has a very different program. So we will see, but it seemed a little bit better, but it's not going to be easy, because I feel like everybody is very close in the race pace.
Well, we wish you all best of luck. Tomorrow is going to be a long race, but I'm pretty sure you're going to enjoy the fastest street circuit in the world.
Thank you very much.
Fernando Alonso, everyone. I know you are one of the favorite drivers for the crowd here. P3 in the race in Bahrain, and now fantastic qualifying. You must be happy starting third and also beating in front of Mercedes as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it has been a very good weekend for us. Qualifying was our weakness or a weak point in Bahrain, but today the cars seem to perform very, very well on one lap. And yeah, let's see tomorrow what we can do from here. Obviously, Charles has a penalty, so we will start in the first row of the grid. So this is just amazing.
I think the first few laps going to be amazing for you, between you and Checo, but tell us, the race pace was good as well. Obviously, in Bahrain, you had one of the best cars around the whole race, but how was it yesterday? Were you happy with there was a bit of a drop at some stage after lap 13. Are you confident for a good race tomorrow?
Yeah, we are confident. I think that the gap, or let's say the long run yesterday, was affected a little bit by traffic, but the car felt very strong. Still, I think the strongest point on the car is the long run pace and how we treat the tires. So yeah, it should be better on Sundays than Saturdays. So starting on the first row, it feels very good.
Well, keep enjoying your 2023 season. It has been a fantastic start, and good luck tomorrow.
So that was Fernando Alonso, Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez speaking to Khalil Bashir, who in 2005 became the first Arab driver to compete in an international single-seater World Championship motor race, when he competed in A1GP for Team Lebanon. You might remember him getting rolled out at the first corner at Paddock Hill Bend at Brands Hatch by Enrique Tocacello. Those were the days, weren't they? But he's now gone on to be a very big TV personality in the Middle East. He's kind of the Middle East answer to Jolyon Palmer, a driver you don't really remember, but now is big on the telly. That's all we have time for. We'll be back with the Checker Flag podcast later on today, and Sergio Perez will start on pole position. Join us for the Grand Prix tomorrow, won't you? We'll be on BBC Radio 5 Live. For Perez will be on pole position. Alonso will be second on the grid. George Russell will be third. Max Verstappen will be starting 15th on the grid by the looks of things. Can he still win from there? Maybe we'll discuss that in the Checker Flag podcast. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live. Catch you tomorrow.